right, good evening, everyone. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'd like to call to order the Lapel Town Council meeting. It is September 21st, 2023. Can I have roll call, please?
Noah.
Here.
Chad.
Here.
Lindsay. Here. Brian.
Here.
Gary.
Here. All right, first thing on the agenda, I would like to approve the agenda for the evening. I do have one request. I'd like to entertain a motion to add pay app number 15 for Thieneman Construction. Do I have a motion to add this to the agenda?
I'll move add pay app for Thieneman.
Second.
Noah.
Yes.
Chad.
Yes.
Lindsay.
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.
Gary.
Yes.
Does any other council members have any requests about the agenda this evening?
I would like, I will not be able to attend the entire meeting this evening, so I would like to move council members' comments and concerns to right after public comment.
I make a motion to move accordingly.
Second. Tie those lids on it.
Noah.
Yes.
Chad.
Yes.
Lindsay.
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.
Gary.
Yes.
Any other requests from the council this evening? At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion as to move forward with the agenda as we have amended it.
I will make that motion.
Second.
Noah.
Yes.
Chad.
Yes.
Lindsay.
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.
Gary.
Yes.
All right. Up next on the agenda this evening, we're going to have public comments and concerns. This is for anything that is not on the agenda this evening. So if you wish to do that, I just ask that you please come to the podium, state your name and address, and so just so we can get that recorded. And we'll allow 3 to 5 minutes for each person to speak for anything that's not on the agenda.
Andrea Baldwin, 125 West 9th Street. I'm here for the LCA on one item. The tree, I don't know if you guys remember the tree on Bulldog or Central Park fell onto the Christmas tree. We would like the town to cut it down and then the LCA will purchase a new one.
Which tree is it again? I'm trying to
The
visualize.
neighbor next to the park, it
Okay.
actually fell on the fence.
To the
The
north.
White House, yeah, because you have
Okay.
a road, you have Ninth
Yes,
Street.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we wanted to see if the town would cut down that and the LCA will do a new one.
Does anybody have any issues with that?
Oh,
Any
not here.
comments, questions, concerns? Do we have the equipment to, like, I know we obviously have chainsaws and things like that to cut it down, but would we have the equipment? We just have a limb chipper, we don't have.
I would say probably defer to our council liaison for the utility department to research if that's something we can take care of ourselves, or if we need to get a quote from a tree trimming company, and then probably.
You don't have any idea how big the tree is,
Like that bigger.
Yeah.
so it's a pretty decent sized tree.
Yeah, it's the only evergreen that's up by the sidewalk.
I think they could probably cut it down, I just don't know about removing
That,
it.
right, to replant it, you
Right.
almost have to get the stump out,
Right.
so. But it is damaged, you can't put anything on it any longer.
Just so we're clear, it's town property, right? We're not going,
Yes.
okay,
Right.
okay, I just wanted to.
It is. The tree that fell on it was not, it was the neighbors, but I don't
But
know.
it was in a storm.
Yes.
Yeah, they could do that.
Okay, then I
Does
have.
that doesn't need a vote, does it?
That's just going over his own vote.
Okay.
Okay, then I have one thing else,
Okay.
just a suggestion. At the park, you guys have went down Main Street and did the no parking at the entrances to the park. Is there any reason why we can't do that? I know we don't have a lot of parking, but we have people that go up through that park all the time. People park right in front of the walkway. You can't get through. We have a gentleman all the time, the guy in the wheelchair. I don't know if you've seen him sometimes. He'll go through. He can't get out other than to get on the sidewalk. So I think that needs to be looked at also. If we're
Yeah.
putting the no parking, do that at our entranceway.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely a conversation that can happen, and
Okay.
and our council liaison can talk to our street department. And,
Thank you. Then I
Yeah.
have one more.
okay.
Budget question. Can I ask that yet?
Will we have to defer to the public hearing on that? Or-
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
so you'll have an opportunity to do that for the public hearing for the budget.
Okay, that's
Alright.
all I needed so
All
far.
right, thank you. Anybody else at this time? And again, just please state your name and address so we can get that for record.
Victor Wakely, 922 Main Street here in Lapel.
Thank you.
I run a small nonprofit called Save Our Veterans. And this past July, we had scheduled a motorcycle ride for a fundraiser. And we weren't aware that we needed a permit to allow a couple, 300 bikes to come through Lapel, maybe stop at Smokies or Woody's, have a bite to eat or drink or whatever. So I was told by the police that we need to apply for a permit. And the permit is for an event, which our event starts at Fisher's Harley Davidson and moves to 5 different locations, just ending the motorcycle ride in Lapel, hoping they'll spend some money here.
What was the date of the ride again?
Our original ride was end of July. Because of the rain, we had to postpone, and we rescheduled it for September 30th, the Saturday.
Okay.
And so the permit states that we have to give a 30-day notice, which we're not able to do. It also states that we have to purchase a bond for $1 million, which I think we can do, but I just got the application yesterday. So we're in a kind of a time crunch, and was told that we could purchase a bond from Myers across the street from my house. And certainly are able to do that if it's a requirement. We do not need to shut down any streets. And I stopped by the local library to ask if we could park motorcycles there. The person that makes that decision was not available, but the clerk there at the library thought that that would not be a problem. So I think, yeah, they're closed Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I believe that parking lot is big enough to accommodate all the motorcycles without taking up precious parking on Main Street, right? So this is my concern, this is my issue. I don't know.
I know the permit states the 30-day. Are we able to waive that?
I would think if he submits satisfactory information and our police department says it's safe and everything, all the requirements are met, I think we could probably conditionally approve that as long as everything's turned in before the event.
No, I agree with that, yeah. I would say, because I believe that how it's written, it needs council approval though for that, so we would just need a special.
Conditional approval?
Well, a special session, essentially, that. Oh, yeah, that's true, yeah.
You have the
Sorry, yeah, contingent approval upon, the police chief signing off on it as well, and that the not bond, but insurance policy is also satisfied at that point. Yeah, I don't see a problem with that.
The only thing, we have no involvement, control, anything over the library, so we can't grant permission.
Right.
So, the only thing we would say is, if you don't get permission from them, you would have to have something in your plan contingent to where would all those bikes go.
You're welcome to use my lot as much as you want. Help
Okay.
yourself at the corner there of 13 and 32. There's nothing I won't do for the veterans. So you help yourself. My brother served, my dad served. Have at it.
Thank you. Alright, very good, so,
Would say
we need to
probably by-
conditionally approve this evening before the council
Yeah.
and vote on that.
Yeah, approving the approving the permit conditional upon both, police okay and, police approval and, insurance, requirements met.
I would say by the 27th, by close of business Wednesday, probably be a good safe, that way we have it 2 days in advance.
Would that give you plenty of
That's
time?
plenty of time.
Okay.
And then I would deliver it to.
Town hall, please.
Town hall, perfect.
I'd make a motion that we conditionally approve the benefit ride for, the
Save our veterans.
permit application for the Save Our Veterans event on the 30th, conditional upon all things being met.
I would also include, and waiving the 30-day.
And waiving the 30-day requirement.
Second. Noah,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Lindsay. Yes. Brian,
Yes.
Garrett.
Okay.
There you have it. Bye.
Thank you.
sir.
If you would just state your name and address for record, please.
Matthew Wood, address is 5060 South 800 West. Just wanted to inform you guys tonight that, down 800, 500, a lot of, with the bridge being out, a lot of semis and stuff, you know, or have to take 500 out. Right now, the detour is 500 to Atlantic and over to 38. And not that I mind traffic coming down 500 to 800 down our road, but the turn at 500 and 800 is not big enough. So not only have semis ended up in my yard, but if you turn onto 800, take it south to 38, and then try to turn back west to 13, you can't turn a 52-foot trailer. That it won't make it. Or 43. Last night, after I had a semi through my yard, that same semi got hung up and shut down State Road 38 last night for a short time because they couldn't make the turn and they went off. So just more informing you guys. Don't know if we just need to put something up there to let semis know they won't make it.
Gary, I know, didn't NDOT, when we talked about this unofficial detour, weren't they gonna put a sign up that said trucks? They weren't?
That was our responsibility.
Well,
But we've got signs up there, 5-ton limit. We've already got those signs in place.
And I know there's limited stuff you can do. I just thought
Sure.
you guys need to know it was happening.
Yeah,
It is
sure,
shut down State
no,
Road 38
appreciate
last
that,
night.
just trying to
Even
think through.
with the unofficial detours. But we've got our signs up.
I did talk to NDOT the day they were setting the signs up, and they were supposed to put the signs that are in front of the school just south of 300 on 13, to try to keep the traffic from 53rd Street turning south
Yeah,
on 13 and then getting down there to the bridge and having nowhere to go.
yeah.
And they did not do it.
I also mentioned that to Bob when we were videoing the detour.
And I spoke with them since, you know, I'm in walking distance to the bridge. They are working to get more signage allocated. The state, believe it or not, gives them a certain number of signs they can use for a detour. So they have been dealing with a flood of traffic. I got to watch a semi back all the way up 13 the other day, which was awesome to watch. So they understand more signage is needed. They're just trying to get the approval for it. So we have had officers patrolling. They've pulled people over, given tickets. So not necessarily the semis, but they have been patrolling for speed and all those other things out there. So, and NDOT did get with Google Maps and Apple Maps. If you type in a route, it does detour you. It does not tell you to go down 13.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
so that's always been our complaint in the past, because it just brings people to the closest point and takes them around. So it has been, there has been way less semi-traffic on this detour than there was when they did the culvert there at 513. So far so good, but you still get those people that think they're smarter than Google.
You're gonna get them. So just wanted to inform you guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Matt.
Yep.
Anybody else this evening? All right. Very good. All right, so We have amended the agenda for council member comments and concerns. I know Mr. Blake had something.
Yep. All right, first of all, just for everybody that's in the room, if you don't know who I am, my name is Chad Blake. I am a graphic designer and I make signs. That is my profession, all right? Noah here, if you didn't know, works at the funeral home. Lindsay works at a hospital. Gary has a trucking company, Gary hauls grain, and Brian has a trucking company. We are all regular people. None of us have been to college for governmental administration. We are not experts in anything that we do up here by any means. It is our job to make the best and most informed decision that we can when it comes to a situation that comes before us. And it is our responsibility that if we do not feel that we are capable of making a correct or informed judgment on something, it is our responsibility to effectively govern this town by going out and seeking the advice of professionals, whether that be our legal counsel or consultants. If you didn't know, we have Dax Norton down here from MS Consultants. We also have Oksana from MS Consultants. They are the consultants that we have hired to help us run this town effectively, efficiently, and correctly. Again, we are not experts. So we reach out and consult with those that are. MS Consultants is one of the most recommended consulting groups in the state of Indiana. They're very good at what they do. When we have something large come to us, such as an LKQ project or any other engineering or building project, we rely on them. They and their legal team and our legal team have worked diligently to go through any project that comes to us to make sure that it is done above board, that everything is processed correctly. The fact that there are people in this town suing the town of Lapel for something that they think that we did incorrectly, wasting taxpayer dollars, is deplorable. Absolutely unacceptable that people feel that's necessary. Additionally, don't put us on blast on Facebook and then try to come to us all nice and friendly and ask us a question that you could have asked first before showing your ass on Facebook. Respect us, we respect you. We are doing everything we can to help make this town better. People in the past didn't reach out, consult, find people, and has put us in a position today that has us in a negative spot when it comes to development and growth and financial position, to the point where we can't hire as many police officers as we can. We can't get an SRO because we can't afford it. We're doing everything that we can. We're using the resources that we have available. Give us some respect. We give you respect. We're trying to help make this town better. And if you feel that you can do a better job at the next election cycle, please do what we did. Drive down to the courthouse, put your name on the ballot, and come in and try to make a difference. We do this for almost no money. Some of us work 50 to 100 hours a month for this town at a rate of about $4 an hour. And why do we do it? Because we want this town to be better. And if you all can't see that and appreciate it and talk to us and treat us like human beings that are doing the best that we can, please keep your comments to yourself. Give us respect, you will get respect. That's all I have.
Any other council member have any comments this evening? All right. Up next, we have a few public hearings before us this evening. And so the first one is a resolution establishing appropriations and tax rates, which would be our budget worksheet. So at this time, I'm going to pause the regular council meeting and open up a public hearing for our budget this evening. So at this time, if there's anybody in the public that has any comments about the budget, I'd like you to just step up and again, state your name and address so we can get that on record, and we'll go from there. Very good.
Well, I just want clarity.
Sure.
Andrea Baldwin, 125 West 9th. I'm actually here asking about a grant that was given to the Parks Department.
Okay.
I was at the budget meeting, and you guys were talking about, some of it was put in Riverboat. And so I got on to try to look at that. I did find some of the information, but as I was leaving, I had to go to the football game. I heard about the police department, that some of the, when we were talking about, Gary was saying about, this is how we're gonna take some stuff out of the budget, then Chad said something about it. And as I was getting ready to leave, I heard Riverwalk. I can take some out of Riverwalk and put it into the police department. Was I right at hearing that?
Yes.
Can you take funds out of the whole Riverwalk that are grants when we have given a grant? Go ahead.
There isn't any grant money in Riverboat.
Okay.
Riverboat is money that we receive,
Okay, that's what, when I
once
asked.
a year
Okay,
from the state. And it is, every month we receive slot machine money,
okay.
but once a year, we receive Riverboat money.
What's is Riverwalk?
Riverboat, we call it Riverboat, but it's actually money from Harris.
Okay,
Every city and town in Madison County
gets it.
gets a small percentage, very small percentage of the profits that they make, the income,
Where does the grant money go?
usually in general fund.
Well, no, if it's a grant, there's a separate fund created.
Well, there's a
So
line item
there's-
in general fund.
There's a
that goes-
line item
There will
in the
be.
park for that particular grant
Okay.
that you are speaking of.
Okay,
It may not show up on the budget form.
Yeah.
okay.
But there is a line item for it, so it is completely separate to itself.
And do
it
we
is
know when
used-
that, rest of that grant will be done? Because
Are you speaking of one specific?
I am speaking of one
Then can you-
specific.
If that would make
That would
more
help.
sense to us. if you
I'm
would tell
speaking
us.
of the one for the new park for the walkway. The $3,000, or was it 5?
Is it from South Madison?
Yes, I'm here as a board member asking where that money is
It's,
tonight.
it's called, Brookside Restoration Park Fund.
Okay.
And I listed it as that
Okay,
in our fund. It is not in the budget because you don't budget that money, that money.
Yeah, it was
is
five,
just-
they
Right.
purchased the county.
then how do we know as a board what is being done? Is there
We can show
something
you this
that we
fund,
can
we can
see?
show you this fund report.
Okay.
here really
Yeah,
quick.
basically, there's
Cause
like,
we talked about it last time and we were like,
There's
we
only
have no
been
idea.
$420 taken out of there.
Okay,
And that was to buy the chemicals and they got it sprayed. Now they're wanting to get a bulldozer.
Mhm.
to
in
start
there
making
to
the
start-
paths.
Yes,
Correct.
okay.
to get that big dirt mound.
Because when I heard Riverwalk, and like I said, I was walking out, so I wasn't sure what I heard, so I was like, I've gotta ask, just to make it
so
clear.
then, so as, receipts and things get turned in
Uh-huh.
for those
You'll
things,
turn
it'll
them
get
into
deducted.
assets.
And when you hit almost out of money, now there is a match that we committed from the Cascading Fund for
Okay.
the rest of that grant.
Mhm.
Once that grant is spent, then you would have that amount to spend out of the Cascading Fund.
Okay,
And then that way, and if it looks like it's going over, well, then that's when a whole different conversation has
Right.
to happen. But yeah, the money is there.
because I represent Lapel and I wanna make sure we're doing the right thing with it when we reach out to to us again to get more money, so,
Absolutely.
They put it in its own,
Okay.
own
Yeah.
account.
alright.
So an update on that, Mike was talking to Gary and I, Mike Daniels on the utility
Mhm.
staff, and they're gonna start, moving the dirt and hopefully in the next couple
Okay.
weeks, so.
I will let Tammy know, cause I was sent to ask some questions.
Sure.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I have a question.
Sure.
So I have some questions about the budget, but
Okay.
before I ask the questions about the budget, I would just like to know, that's now the second blasting that the public's received from this council, and I'd just like to know if we need to wait until the next
Can
meeting.
you state your name and address for
Christy
record?
Worthman, 1405 Vine Street.
Thank you.
Do we need to wait until the next meeting to have commentary about it?
About the budget?
No, about this.
Comments.
Council concern.
This is a public hearing just about the budget.
That's why I'm asking.
Yes.
Do I
Yep.
need to wait till the next
Yep.
meeting?
Yes, please.
Yes,
Of course.
please.
All right, that's fine. I'll give you a heads up, I'll put it on Facebook. All right, first question I have is, town manager, where is that in the budget? I didn't see it.
I don't know.
Is it not budgeted?
was in the general, it was a line item in the general fund.
There's a percentage of it that comes out of the general fund.
Right.
But I didn't see it in salaries anywhere.
Because it's not a salary, we don't have an actual town manager.
Are we planning to hire one in 23? Cause I thought that was the plan.
That was our wish, but we don't have the funding.
Okay, so is this considered professional services fees?
Correct.
Okay, and I think those are limited to like 30,000, is that right? Did I read that right? Cause that seems awful low for professional services fees if we're paying for a planner and a town manager, so I'm just trying to understand where that money's gonna come from.
Well, a planner, or I'll start with the town manager. Town manager, or what we have done with Dax and his team, we can pay that out of multiple different areas. It doesn't have to just be paid out of professional services. So, because if they're doing work for different areas of the town, they can be paid out of different line items from the fund report. So if he's working on things for the gas company or the water company or the sewer, we can pay his service contract, a portion out of that, as well as the professional services. And same with the planner.
I noticed there's no, it's $0 for the clerk treasurer salary in where all the other salaries are, but then later on, there's a small amount, in a later section. But it all looks like it's coming out of the general fund. So are we paying the clerk treasurer?
Yes, it's just in a different, when you go into
It's listed in two
gateway to
places.
enter in, it's in two places, and we just put it all down in one spot.
And then where can we access the fund report so we can see the balances in the funds?
Is that a public request, or can they get it on Gateway?
Fund reports aren't on Gateway.
But it's a
Change
public
every day.
request.
It'd just be a public request because they change as bills are paid. I mean, it could change daily.
We change that with our agenda every month, like,
Yeah, so you request it every month.
put it like.
This is month ending September because that's the last month that the books were balanced on.
So typically, there's like a summary fund report at the end of each month, is that right?
So the goal is, Mr. President, if I may.
Absolutely.
The goal would be to give the public and the council a budget management report each month. So bear with us, it's coming. It's a very detailed Excel sheet. I promise it won't go to you in Excel. It'll be a PDF, and you'll see fund balance, tax side revenue is very difficult, okay? But you will see fund balance and appropriations reporting. So it'll be a good document. I was gonna try to get one drafted for preliminary review. I'll still do that for the month of ending August. Maybe we'll put it on the website in a couple minutes.
So if money is transferred from one fund to another, that has to be done in a meeting with a vote, is that right?
So money can't, so technically, when you say fund, so general fund money can't be transferred to MVH fund. That can't happen, right? The statute doesn't allow that to happen. General fund money can't be transferred from personal services to capital outlays. That can happen. And that is a resolution. Typically, a transfer of appropriations would be in resolution.
So if it's not done through a pay app or an invoice, and creating a line item entry, and there's just a bulk amount moved out of a fund, then there should be a corresponding resolution in most cases for that, right?
Correct.
That's what
Or an additional appropriation is obviously money in a fund that has not been appropriated prior to this process.
But would that still require, okay,
That's a public hearing, and there are additional appropriation public hearings on the agenda tonight.
perfect, so there would be a record of it in this form
Yes, ma'am.
for the people to see, okay, so that's what I'm looking at, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Anybody else? All right, at this time, I would like to close the public hearing and resume the regular council meeting. Any comments, questions, or concerns before we finalize the budget from the council?
No.
There's no vote tonight.
It's just introducing it.
Oh, vote next.
Your adoption's in
month.
October.
Okay, very good. Okay. All right, our next public hearing is going to be a resolution authorizing an additional appropriation from MVH to Midwest Paving in the amount of $29,000. So I would, at this time, pause the regular council meeting and open up the public hearing for Resolution 24-2023. Any comment from the public? Right, I would at this time resume the regular council meeting. Any questions from the council on this resolution for this additional appropriation this evening? Okay.
Now, this is the last of their pay, right? We're done with the Midwest paving,
Yes.
okay? On the last project.
This was a carryover from last year, correct?
I think it was the
No,
10th
this
Street
was
project.
this year's.
Yeah, this year's.
CCMG.
This year's
Yeah.
CCMG.
Yeah, CCMG.
And so at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to pass Resolution 24-2023.
I'd make that motion.
Second.
Noah,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Lindsay,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Gary.
Yes.
All right. Up next is a resolution authorizing an additional appropriation for $40,000 for, open it up, sorry. The, from Cascadon, excuse me, to the Parks Fund. I believe Mr. Blake had some comments on that. Would you like to do that before I open the public hearing?
No, let's do the public hearing, and more than likely, the questions will be
Okay.
asked and answered.
All right. So at this time, I'd like to pause the regular council meeting and open up the public hearing for this additional appropriation. Do we have any comments from the public at this time?
Well, I've got one, the wheels science.
Okay. Again, just state your name and address for the recording. And
Christy Workman, 1405 Vine Street. So have we sought somebody to do the forensic audit at this point then to determine why there's a shortfall?
I have the entire chain of events here that I can run through real quick to explain the shortfall. First of all, the shortfall is something we've known about for 4 years. All right. In 2016, the Parks Department was established because it was necessary to have a Parks Board in order to receive a DNR grant for the creation of Bodenhorn Park. The grant was a 50-50 match from the DNR. The land provided counted as the town's 50% match, which gave us a grant amount of $200,000 from the state. Once that process was started between 2017 and 2019, the following issues were found. The Parks Board at the time failed to submit invoices correctly to the Clerk Treasurer's Office, resulting in monies being spent both out of the Parks General Fund and the Bodenhorn Park Grant Fund. This being a reimbursement grant, when receipts were submitted to the state, the reimbursements would then be issued to be deposited. We found two transactions or two deposits that were deposited into the incorrect locations. A $74,543.34 reimbursement was mistakenly deposited into the town's general fund, into the town's park fund, and $24,219 was inadvertently deposited into the town's general fund. The park board spent all funds available in the park fund, which resulted in a negative balance in 2019. At the end of 2019, the town authorized a transfer of $25,000 from the Cascadin Fund to the Park Fund to bring that to a non-negative balance. During that time, the Parks Board also spent a total of $197,193.05 out of the Bodenhorn Park Grant Fund. Total spent between the Parks Fund and the Bodenhorn Park Grant, $300,380.71. That resulted in a negative balance of $110,086.59 once corrections were made. So in 2022, at the direction of the State Board of Accounts, 2 independent investigations were done, one by myself and the other by Janet Alexander. She is our financial consultant. Thank you. My research and her research came to the same conclusion with the same dollar amount to the penny, which resulted in the funds being transferred from the town's general fund to the Bodenhorn Park Grant Fund to correct the incorrect deposit, a transfer from Parks General Fund to the Bodenhorn Park Grant Fund to correct the incorrect deposit. At that point, we had to zero the grant fund and transfer a $98,430.71 from the Parks Department to the grant fund to bring it to a total of 0. So that correction was made in 2022. This year, in 2022, we also authorized $50,000 to be transferred from the Cascadin Fund to the Parks. Additionally, in 2023, we appropriated $60,000 to go from from Cascadin to the Parks Fund. For 2023, the Parks Department was given a budget of $35,000. That is what is resulting in a roughly $35,000 shortfall in that account for the remainder of the year. And that is why we are transferring $40,000 from from Cascadin to the Park Fund in order to fund the parks through the rest of this year and bring them to a positive balance.
So a couple questions about that. Thank you. The first is, how is a town council member's audit an independent audit?
Independent audit is not the correct word for it, but it was independently researched. So I don't have audit powers, but we both came to the same conclusion, and that information was reviewed by the State Board of Accounts during our audit.
Because when I asked this question August 3rd at the special meeting, I was told then that I was led to believe then, based on the conversation, we really didn't know what had happened. We had turned over information to, I believe it was the State Attorney General, in case we found there was something that was wrong. That there was conversation about whether we were gonna audit ourselves or do a forensic audit. And from listening to what you're telling me now, it sounds like that wasn't really the case. Like, that information's been available all along, and that 6-month hiatus of no information to the public, that all could have been resolved.
This is 2 very different conversations, all right?
Okay.
This is how did the fund end up being a negative?
Okay.
This is us correcting the negative to bring all of that.
How did it get negative, right?
So, well, we know the funds were deposited in the wrong place, we got everything transferred to the correct locations. As far as investigation or any of those things, that is still ongoing to make sure that all of the funds that were spent, that we made sure that they're in the right location, were spent correctly.
So who's doing that investigation?
Can I?
I
And
will
so,
turn it over to Evan.
so we notified State Board of Accounts and the prosecuting attorney for Madison County about that. That was what had occurred. So State Board of Accounts is bringing in, or they have a far more economic option than a private CPA firm. So we're contacting, or not contacting, but having them come in with the forensic audit division to do that side of it. And then when it comes to the prosecutor's office, yeah, we've contacted them already.
And I appreciate that, I'm not implying that there was anything illegal. My point was simply this, that to say, you know, we went all this time, this first came out in the public meeting in February. Whatever anybody thinks of my information that I put on Facebook, I intentionally didn't say anything about it because I was under the impression at that time it was under investigation. And I did not want to create a firestorm that people would be asking questions y'all couldn't answer, right? Out of respect. But when I followed up on it in August, I was under the impression it was in a standstill.
It was at that point.
It sounds like it would have been nice to know that we at least knew how this happened, because my concern that I've reiterated over and over again is, if you don't know how it happened, you don't know where the point of failure was to make sure it doesn't happen again. So that leads to the question of, if the Parks Department has an operating budget of $35,000 a year, how did we not notice that there was a deposit of $97,000 in there?
So, just real quick on that also, we waited for the official final results of the state's audit to make sure that all of that information was accurate and that we didn't do anything wrong.
Fair
That's why in August, we were still waiting for that to finish.
Fair enough.
All right. As far as, and this is one of those interesting things in local government, an established park board is its own fiscally responsible body. So we as a town council had no control over them. We can't go in and wag our finger at them and say bad job or anything like that. They are their own entity, and they are to operate within the budget they are given.
So do they authorize their own bills, and we as in the town council set their budget? Who authorizes their accounts payable invoices to pay?
We as the council, you know, they submit them to the clerk treasurer's office, and then they would be paid.
So my question comes back to, if they're not writing their own checks and they're not approving their own invoices to be paid, where is the oversight? Is that something that we think the fund report that will now be generated will correct? How did we get to a point where 3 times the operating budget was deposited into the account, where thousands, tens of thousands of invoices were not paid? And I'm not asking you to name someone, please understand. I'm asking, has the council done its due diligence to identify where those points of failure have occurred and put checks and balances to make
It's
sure it's
already been fixed.
Yeah.
Well, not fixed.
It's already been changed to, it doesn't happen that way.
That's what I'm asking.
Again, this all dates back to 2019.
Right.
You know, this was, you know, April, May of 2019 is when this thing, and then it's taken us a long time to actually completely sort out,
So I'm thinking, like, obviously there's somebody keeping an eye on these fund balances, right? Like, to notice, oh gosh, there's a huge deposit in here, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out how that happens, and,
The person that's in charge of that right now is sitting down there at the end of the table.
but obviously she wasn't in charge of that then,
Right.
and I
wasn't
get
even on
that.
the town council then.
I'm
Yeah.
stating, I know that, she was
Yeah.
not in charge of that
There-
then.
There's only one person that was here back then, and she wasn't involved in the parks.
That's what I'm asking,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
From an accountability standpoint,
Yep.
that was my whole reason for saying, have we done the work, why do we not know this, is because you know, we've gone now for it started, when did you say 2016, so we're talking 7 years. If we haven't identified that by now, there's probably been subsequent problems.
No, there have been no subsequent problems in at least the last 4 years.
So, and is this a question for this hearing or the next one, as to how do you believe that disbanding the Parks Department is going to solve this issue if you have ultimate oversight of their finances?
That is not for this
Okay,
hearing.
I'll ask that in the next one.
Or, yeah, that's not public hearing.
You
Oh,
can
it's
allow
not?
public
Are
comment.
you gonna allow public comments on it?
Of course not.
Yeah, oh, yes, yeah, I mean, we can,
Yeah, but this is a public hearing for the
Right.
appropriation.
For the appropriation.
And we asked how we got to needing this appropriation.
Okay,
That was the whole history lesson on that.
okay, thank you, appreciate it.
anybody else? All right, so at this time, I would like to reopen the regular council meeting, resume the council meeting, close the public hearing. Does anybody from the council have any questions about this resolution? All right, at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to pass resolution 25-2023.
I'll make a motion to pass resolution 25-2023 as stated.
Second.
Noah,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Lindsay,
I know we have to do it, but no.
Brian,
Yes.
Garrett,
Yes.
Okay. Did we bring in the agenda to bring
Or not.
Okay. All right, up next is the approval of meeting minutes for August 3rd, August 17th, August 24th, and September 7th. Did everyone have a chance to review those minutes? And did anyone have any questions?
Only got two separate. Only got two separate ones. That's good.
We were all present at these 4 meetings, so we can approve them together all at once. So at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes for August 3rd, August 17th, August 24th, and September 7th.
I'll move to approve those sets of minutes.
Second.
Noah,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Lindsay,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Garrett,
Yes.
All right. Up next in unfinished business. This has ordinance 8.
it is.
on the agenda. Okay. All right. Under unfinished business is ordinance 8-2023, and it is,
Our agenda lists that as ordinance 7, which is incorrect. It is actually number 8. Just so everybody's aware.
This is an ordinance authorizing the town to restructure the Lapel Park Board. So I know there's been some questions on this, and we're gonna go ahead and take public comment at this time, and we can kind of answer, one-on-one, so if you would, yes.
First off, would you just like to
Just
share?
step up so we can get you on recording.
I was just asking before we took public comment, first you just wanted to explain what the plan was, so people can comment on that.
Okay.
Thanks.
My turn? Okay, so, as I stated earlier, the Parks Board is its own government agency, and they have the same, or I'm sorry, entity. Apologize if I use some incorrect words, I'm sure somebody will correct me. And the Parks Board is required to follow rules, regulations, the same as we as a council or any other governing body may follow in the town. That includes the receipt and distribution of funds. That includes entering into legal contracts, any of those things. During our review process for the parks, it has been found that we have not correctly collected or distributed funds. We have not correctly,
Not we.
or,
Not the,
yeah, I'm sorry, not we, the council.
yeah.
You-
No, the collections for the funds, or not funds, sorry, for the fees, rental fees, everything that should be running through the office of the clerk treasurer has been running through, other organizations, and somehow, some way, we're getting an itemized, just blank check, not blank check, but just a lump sum check. That's absolutely not how things should be operating.
So the way that it should work, if there are sponsorship fees, or not sponsorship fees, rental fees for the parks from a league, for example, or if tickets are sold to an event, or if concessions are sold, all funds for those activities and others are required to come through the town to the clerk treasurer's office, and then based on contract with a league or entity that operates that space, they would then receive their contractual portion of those funds as a disbursement from the town. So if there is an event held every weekend over the summer, the town should receive money every week. For the last couple years, the town has received a single non-itemized payment at the end of the season, which is obviously there's no way for us to track or know if all of these funds were acquired correctly, spent correctly, distributed to the town correctly. So that has brought us to the position where we're at today. This does not have anything to do with the park fund negative balance that we just did the additional appropriation for. Correct?
No, not necessarily. I mean, they're also spending, you know, and doing, they're also operating.
I understand. All right, I will clarify. The Bodenhorn Park grant issue is not related to this specifically.
That's correct.
What is this?
The park board reorganization, ordinance 8-2023.
Is that the negative one now for the 197?
No, that's all now been corrected
Okay.
after the resolution that we just approved.
So, I guess that didn't answer my question.
Yeah, so it's
Public comment, I'm sorry.
Yep.
That was, so I guess that just didn't answer quite my question, and I was trying to get it out to the public. So what is the reorganization plan? What does this ordinance do that you were trying to
What
pass
this
through?
ordinance does is maintains an entity of a park board, but the council absorbs the park board itself via statute.
Okay.
So this council will become effectively the parks board as well.
Might not be like.
Now, there is a member of the Parks Board tonight here. I think she's gonna speak in a second. Before she speaks, for the record, you never even talked to the Parks Board and informed them of the dissolve. They have to try to figure this out on their own. Extremely unprofessional. You feel that you can handle the Parks Board as a council, but yet maybe 2-3 times tops in the last year. How long longer? How long has it been since, or how many, in an amount of time, how many times has a council member showed up as a liaison to the Parks Board meeting and helped direct you guys?
0.
And how much time? And how many months?
At least the last year.
So, a Parks Board member is stating tonight that in the last year, she has not seen a liaison for this council show up to a meeting, and yet you're saying the Parks Board can't do stuff correctly and you need to absorb it. Parks Board can't do anything correctly because the council is not there as a liaison to help direct. And if I feel that if they can't even make it to the meeting, what makes you guys feel that you guys can do it yourselves? That you're gonna even take the time to take it serious?
Exactly. I'm next.
Go ahead.
No, I just wanna say, Andrew Bowles, 125 West Ninth. I feel the same way. I have other people that I've talked to that said, they say who their liaison was, and he's never been there. I think you guys have enough on your plates. If we have to regroup a new board, park board, be like Pendleton. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I wasn't cutting you off, ma'am.
Okay,
I apologize.
okay. No, I'm just saying, the town of Pendleton, I know we're not them, but they still have their own park board. You guys have enough right now that you guys are trying to do.
So one of the things that this ordinance does is allows the creation of subcommittees that would essentially create a quasi.
So what about
parks
the
board.
people already on it, Evan? I mean, they didn't even get anyone to come and help, come
Well,
to their meeting.
Well, so one of the issues with the situation, how the parks ordinances are written, I don't know if you've looked into the statutes or not, but I believe that they were written in like 1942. They're very antiquated, and they give a lot of power to parks,
Right.
such as entering into contracts.
Right.
Contracts that I was asked to.
Contracts, budgets, salaries.
Still
Right.
follow.
Something of which I was asked to review a contract before, and it was my recommendation, do not enter into this contract. It is not good, it is not conducive for the well-being of the town or the parks themselves. They still entered into that contract, right? It's one of those things where oversight seems to be needed at this point, and removing such powers like entering into contracts, that legal basically said, please don't do that, right? We can come up with something better that's better for the town. I think that it's completely, reasonable for them to create a subcommittee, possibly with the same people that are on the existing Parks Board, but no longer having that power to put the town into a bad situation. Like, why aren't we retraining the amount of fees that we should be? Why is the oversight not there, essentially?
Right. I get that too, because there has been softball down there. No, they've paid their fees, no one to open concession stands.
Yep.
No one there at all. So,
And
I mean,
just to lightly piggyback on that, we're not required to attend a meeting. Doesn't mean somebody shouldn't be there, but we're not required to attend the meeting.
But
We
you
don't
have
have
a liaison.
control or influence. We can be there to ask a question. But to say we've not been involved for the past year on the topic of contracts and other things and fees and all of that, we have been directly involved with the park board president. And even with that information, our recommendations were not necessarily followed. So that's what's led us to this point.
do we get a vote on that as a town? Can we put that on a docket? I'm just asking, Evan.
You want a referendum? I don't think that's how it
We need a name.
Olivia Wood, 5060, South 800 West. I am part of the park board. And to address the situation with the lump sum, our president, she's not here today, she had an emergency, but I know from the whole thing in the past, that is what we were told to do. The softball order, and they just paid it. That's what they were told to do. It's what we were told to do. We haven't had much guidance on anything, so it's kind of all new to us. When I got put on maybe 2 years ago, everybody had left, so it's all new. So we need help. I think that we need to help you guys. We need to help make decisions for the parks, for the town of the parks. We're growing, and I still think that you need to think about the town and having a park department.
So, ma'am, just to address that, so we did receive another lump sum, and I sent an email on December 20th, 2022 to the president of the Parks Board, detailing out how that was not correct.
Correct.
That there were issues.
Correct.
Do not do that again. And it was done again.
When?
This year.
Okay.
A month ago?
Yeah.
A month ago?
For the
Rental
payment,
fees and everything else, yeah.
for the payment to you, the rent?
It's not but it wasn't done correctly, right? It's not just a lump sum for that organization, it should have been done and itemized per each transaction, essentially. And that's also another thing too, that the contract was, February 17th, 2023. I was asked to review, the contract for the field usage concession stands, and I recommended do not enter into this contract either, and that was completely ignored as well. So I don't know when it comes to, you know, the past boards or the past attorneys, and I did check with the other attorneys, or sorry, just one who's been involved with this town as well, and we've never been invited to a Parks Board meeting, right? So we're here for the council, we're here for the redevelopment committee if need be, we're here for the planning commission, we're here for the BZA. Parks are their own entity, and again, back to the relatively antiquated statutes, they have a lot of power. That includes making sure that they have an attorney that they want there, right?
Okay.
And so I know that personally, within the past 9 months, have given guidance on please don't do these things, and they've been ignored.
Okay, so we'll make sure that if you guys decide to continue with the board, we'll make sure that is addressed. Thank you.
I need to back up. So my question is, was the park board ever aware of these issues? Was the park board ever aware that you could represent them at the meeting? You know, the hardest part about some of this is knowing the questions that need to be asked without knowing. Being on the planning board, walked into it knowing nothing. If I hadn't been given, and I thank you guys for that, right? Allowing Sana, I can't ever say her name. Oksana, there we go. And other people in the past, and yourself, Evan, to be a part of the planning board, to help direct me, help teach me, help learn, just like you guys have as the council. You would have made horrible decisions. I know, I sure as heck would have made horrible decisions. But yet we are upset by the way the park board runs things because they have such strong power, but we left them in the dark and the blind. And then to blame that on the park board is unfair. That is the council's fault, in my opinion.
They were put that way. The park board was made that way by previous president, and the park board demanded autonomy. They didn't want us involved in it. They wouldn't tell us information, and they didn't have to because of the way it was set up. So that's where a lot of the problems are coming from. That's where the park board has said, we don't want you involved. They knew that they had legal, because when I was on the park board over a decade ago, we got our lawyer involved all the time. So we knew that then. The information wasn't passed along. That's not your fault either, anybody that's currently on the park board. But that's the way that it was set up, that the park board could do whatever they want. They did their 5-year comprehensive plan, whatever. They would not answer to the council anymore. We asked for budget stuff, we would ask for information. Nope, you're not getting it.
So how long ago was this going on?
Whenever Bodenhorn Park started.
2016.
Actually 13.
So we've stated since then that the board, and I don't know who's on the board then, I know who's on it now, so I'm not speaking for anybody. But we switched hands a lot. And those people that didn't want you guys involved, that wasn't doing that stuff, those aren't the same people that are on the board today. Nor do they know what they can ask of you guys. And I don't think it's fair to them, you've never made it known.
Well, and that's why we're reorganizing it. Like Evan said, we can still appoint people to have a subcommittee, quasi-board, or
No,
just subcommittee within the town to help the council guide the Parks Department. And I think that's something we're still absolutely looking into doing. This ordinance itself is just not allowing them to have as much power as they have now. So we can make sure those funds are being brought in correctly, and contracts are being being executed correctly. And again, it's just a reorganization, not necessarily saying goodbye park board, we're never gonna see you again. It's gonna be a, hey, this is how we're organizing it. This gets us more involved, and if we feel that a subcommittee is necessary, then by all means, I think that gives us the opportunity to do that.
I'll let Gary speak before I speak.
So what I'm looking at is we want to go back to pre-2013 to where the council controlled the park board. We had a park board that took care of the park. But when they decided that they would want to buy a new piece of equipment, or redo a diamond, they would bring that to us with the amount of money that they got a quotes for or whatever, and then we would make those decisions. Same way with the contracts. If we needed a contract, that's what we did prior to 2013, where we set up the autonomous board so that they could go get a DNR grant. That's DNR. So I think that's what we want to do now, right? Is go back to what we had. We had control of the board, the money, contracts, whatever, and the park board itself, which those folks on there need to stay on there and do the day-to-day stuff. But when they, just like the planning or the police department comes, wants more money for cars, they come to us. Same way with the park board.
We just can't let another entity obligate us into spending taxpayer money.
Right.
Without.
And with this new, and now that we are reorganizing it, we can set up some operating procedures that will tell the board and tell us how we're gonna operate that park and the park board.
Correctly. So, and the one thing that I wanna make sure, to the member of the park board, that might need to be said here would be a potential apology for the fact that communication that's been going on with the park board president for the last 18 months did not get conveyed to the park board.
Yeah.
Because nothing that we're discussing has not been discussed in advance or in great detail with the park board president.
And I'll add something else to that, and correct me if I'm wrong. If the park board overspends, it then becomes the town council's responsibility to make those funds up.
Okay. Yeah,
Exactly.
that makes sense.
And again, with reorganizing it, we can set it up to where we'll have a better control of the money. We can account for that money much quicker than in coming up with a $90,000 deficit. We'll know month to month how that fund is running and whether they need an additional appropriation to go buy new park equipment or to buy a new lawnmower or whatever it is.
Yeah. No part of this is meant to take away from the work that has been done by the Parks Board. You know, we have a Parks Master Plan that's recently been completed that's gonna result in additional funds that come in to fund projects. No part of this is saying we're done with parks. It's we have to make sure that it operates correctly to ensure that those plans and things can get executed. At the end of the day, you're right, we don't have time to run the parks, but we have to at least make sure that they're run correctly for the liability and financial stability of the town.
And my apologies for coming up here hasty to begin with, but some of that information that we spoke about right now, I feel should have been addressed to the park board ahead of time. It would have solved a lot of people's questions and answers. I guess the only thing I'm gonna ask is, if tonight when you vote on this, would you guys be prepared to also vote on allowing a subcommittee for the park board? Or can that be done?
So this is just first reading, correct?
It's at 2 readings.
Yeah, that was literally gonna be
Oh,
my
it's a two
suggestion.
reading?
Yeah, you
To
have
not-
to, you have to.
Yeah,
You
if
have
I'm
to.
right, I'll piggyback on him. Given, in reading the room, given that it seems that one member of the park board hasn't communicated fully with the remaining members of the park board, and the park board is important. This is a first read. You do not have to suspend the rules and pass it on second. You can wait that full 30 days. This is Evan's suggestion. Wait that full 30 days, keep it in the public, maybe at that time, in that interim, have conversations with members of the park board that weren't informed. Maybe at that time, come up with some operating procedures and rules, and maybe when you get past the 30 days, I'm not saying it changes your vote, or you don't do this, I'm not suggesting that, but it's one of those instances where don't suspend the rules and have 30 days to truly think about it, communicate with those members and see if the outcome after that 30 days may be different than what you were thinking on this now. Might not be a bad idea.
And I just to kind of help guide you on your decision too, I think, I don't want to speak for you, but you can speak it. I don't feel the partner board would be, from everything I get told all the time, but she don't like to speak, sorry, is, I don't think they would mind working with council, like you said, as a subcommittee and have that help, because they don't quite put in the time that is needed to be able to make those big decisions. It's just that communication of the plan was never there. So, there's been obviously a lack of communication, a lot, so.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions. Sorry.
I do have to apologize, I have to leave, so, I'll see you later. Thanks.
So this, do I need to say the name again?
Just for the recording, just so they know.
Christy Worthman, 1405 High Street.
Have we met?
So, a couple questions. This sort of just popped up on the agenda, with no warning. And here's why I say that, okay? From the standpoint of people, you know, who come to the meetings and read the minutes even when they're not at the meetings. If this has been a problem for 2 years now, that this hasn't been done correctly, it's never been, that I can find, maybe I can still, expressed in the meeting in front of the people that there is a deficiency in the process and that there is a corrective measure being offered to fix it. Like, for example, hey, why don't we sit down and come up with a standard operating procedure, so on and so forth, right? So I think from a transparency standpoint for the public, this was a jarring situation to have this pop up on an agenda. Okay, the first thing people did was ask the Parks Board president, what's going on? She didn't know. She found out that day on the agenda, you know. The second thing is, when did the decision get discussed or made to create this ordinance, that it would just come out of thin air and show up on an agenda?
So, when was an internal discussion began about this? Is that the question?
Yeah, at some point, a decision was made to propose an ordinance, right?
I would say when.
When I had to go to the prosecutor.
Was that?
When I had to go to the prosecutor.
That's when the decision.
Well, it's when we started looking at options as to what needed to be done and how we can rein the problem in. So, I mean, it's multifaceted, this issue.
I'm just trying to understand when the
I'm not.
conversation took place, because there was that I was aware of, or that I can find in the minutes, there was no public conversation. There's no conversation in front of the public about having to undertake this. And the next thing you know is I show up at a meeting and it's on the agenda. And the meeting happened to be a very well-attended meeting, and it got kicked from the agenda to the next meeting, almost as if, oh, well, yeah, we realize this is gonna be alarming and this is already gonna be a long meeting, is how it was perceived. Okay, I'm just being honest with you, right? I mean, I know you guys get frustrated with, you know, how I communicate. I try to be fair, and, you know, I've always been clear that my agenda is accountability and transparency, which I think you guys have done a much better job in the last 6 months than ever in all the time I've worked in Lapel. I commend you for that, but this came out of nowhere, and here's the question I'm having. The question I'm having is, I would have thought that some conversation about that would have taken place in front of the public at some point before that just popped up on the agenda. Was that conversation had at the workshop?
I can't recall if we had it at the workshop.
We did not.
I know there were, again, multiple emails between the legal staff and the Parks Board
Fair.
president, and I apologize if she did not communicate all of that with the
Yeah.
Parks Board, and
Understand.
I don't know, and I can't speak on behalf of Evan, I don't know if any of those emails read exactly, hey, we're looking at reorganizing, but I think that so he did not say that, but I think by the questions that were being asked and the requests that we were asking her or the Park Board president to do, it was definitely implied. And I apologize if you feel like we were trying to slide that under the table. Yes, it was a very large meeting, actually, and not to throw our legal staff under the bus, but they did not have that ordinance done that night.
Gotcha.
And it just was not finished at that point,
I'm
so.
just curious at the conversation that was had with the parks, and in fairness, she's not here to defend herself. So,
Sure.
you know, we're taking on faith that she was advised of exactly what she needed to do and how she needed to do it, and she disregarded that communication, is what I'm hearing. And what I'm asking was, when I hear, Evan, if you don't want me to use your name, what I hear him saying is, I told her not to do it, not I told her what to do. And as much as the council wants us to respect that they are not experts, they are our neighbors up here just trying to do the best they can, I think we have to respect that the members of the Parks Board are the exact same thing. She's not an accountant. If you don't tell her this is how it needs to be handled, how is she to know?
No, ma'am, it wasn't just.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, it wasn't just, no. It wasn't like, you know, forgetting Sarah Marshall trying to teach how to ride a surfboard and said, you know, do more, do less, do less. Well, you gotta do more than that. It wasn't like that, right? And no, I said, this is wrong. From my understanding, it's never been done like that before, right? So that's the first time it had been done like that to begin with. So that's why, through an anomaly to begin with, said, don't do this. It needs to be done like this.
Okay.
And it was also, the email was sent, and then we had a conversation on the phone as well that day.
Okay, that's fair. That was my question, because it didn't come off that way initially, that's why I was asking that clarifying question. And then the second piece of this is, I'd just like to understand, because I don't feel like this is fleshed out entirely well. Under what you're proposing, would this be similar to the planning commission, which would be more of an advisory board?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And if that's the case, would you consider requiring, similar to the planning commission, a town council or a town employee to be on the Parks Department to assist with that?
Yeah, the difference with that is planning obviously has its own sections of, in Indiana code, it's you know, I don't, with the subcommittee, I believe that it would just be, you know, ad hoc for the most part.
It's a home rule.
Yeah.
You make your own rules on it. Planning commission is set by state statute.
I would consider that.
I mean, it just
If you're
seems-
asking for each council member for their opinion, absolutely.
I'm just saying, it seems fair for continuity of leadership, you know. If you want something done a certain way, and especially because you know it's gonna take some time to create a standard operating procedure, it seems like it would make sense to have someone who understands how everything else works there to advise.
I mean, that should have been the case with a liaison, but that individual who's no longer a member on the board also never seemingly showed up as a liaison.
Well, and that was brought up this evening, and I'll be completely honest, when the former council member left about 6 months ago, I then took the liaison spot. I went to 2 or 3 meetings, cannot testify how many for sure, but the 2 or 3 that I did attend, there was either A, not a quorum at that meeting, or there was nothing on the agenda. So, and one of those meetings was the day that one of these emails had been sent back and forth, and I consulted with Katie about that for probably an hour or 2.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Any other comments?
So I apologize for saying that you were not at 0, because I was not at that one.
That's fine. No worries.
I got a couple questions.
Sure. Just state your name and address like we don't know who you are and where you
My name's
live.
David Bodenhorn, 16610 East 186th Street, Noblesville, Indiana. So, our family's the one that donated the ground. And we're not real happy about our name kind of being drug into this thing. I mean, we give a lot of money to the town of Lapel.
Yep.
This is almost $500,000 we give here. So I got some questions. I know we went through DNR grant, 200,000, is that correct?
That's how much the grant was, yes.
Was from the DNR to Lapel for the park,
And it
correct?
was a matching grant, so we had to spend the money and then they reimbursed us.
But
Or that's what we-
but the town did not put $200,000 into it, correct? They used
The donation of your land.
so basically, we tried to build a park with only $200,000.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
That's the
Yes.
reason why we got problems.
Absolutely.
Because we can't get the park done because there's no money.
100%.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And I know, and I realize the other problems here, but we're talking pennies compared to what's really going on out there. You know, we're talking little bitty dollars here. Somebody didn't turn in chocolate money. Versus, we're needing a couple $100,000 to finish this thing. I mean, I go by it all the time, and it wasn't even mowed until a few weeks ago. Believe me, my family not happy. That's not what we wanted. That's not what we were expecting when we did this thing. And
That's what you were told was gonna happen with you.
yeah, so my question is, how are we gonna finish that? We keep talking about, hey, we're gonna get another board, we're gonna do this, or we're gonna reorganize. How are we going to finish that? I mean, do we need to do a township levy? You know, do we need more money besides just what the town puts in? Pendleton, I don't think it's just the town of Pendleton, is it? Don't they get from Fall Creek and everybody else for their
Yes.
park?
Yes, they do get from Fall Creek. Township pays taxes to help fund the park.
I mean, kinda like the library, you know, we got a library here, but Jackson Township, whoever, they all pay into it, or, you know, is that something that the town maybe needs to look into as far as, you know, people outside of town come and play at that park, or any of the parks, you know? So maybe we need to look at, hey, how can we raise revenue? I mean, you're giving the park $35,000 or whatever a year to work with for all the parks. That includes mowing, includes maintenance and everything else. This park's out here just sitting here spinning its wheels, and we could be doing this 10 years from now.
There's no doubt the parks need $200,000 a year to operate properly.
Yeah,
At least.
yeah.
At least. Dax, do you have, I'm sorry, I don't mean to throw you on the spot. Do you have any suggestions as to, I mean, grants or with other municipalities you've worked with? I mean, that is a problem. I mean, it's not done. And
I mean,
we tried, like Mr. Bodenhorn said, we built a park for $200,000 and that's nothing.
So it wasn't really a matching grant, you just put the land up for collateral, basically. So, you know, it sounded like, hey, we're gonna have $400,000 to work with. They had $200,000 to work with on a $400,000 project.
We're also kind of limited to what the grant says, the existing grant, where we got the money, that plan, everything has to be done within what was approved for that plan with the DNR.
Right.
So that's kind of.
But I don't know if everything was done.
It was done to the DNR's satisfaction for the grant. That's why the town had to put more money into the park to get it to the point the DNR was satisfied.
So can you go beyond what they're calling satisfactory? I mean, can you do more?
Yes, we had the money. we sure could.
You can do more,
Yeah.
okay. I was worried, it's like, oh, they saying you can't do anything.
There was a point that the park had to be to satisfy the grant, or the town had to pay the $200,000 back to the DNR.
Okay, so, but that goes back to my point, that the town, I wanna say it, they're not really throwing money at it. They are, but they didn't throw any money at it to begin with. They just used that deed and said, hey.
Yes.
Let's just say that everything's on the table.
Yeah.
Impact fees, township levy, bonds, grants, anything that we can think of, we're looking at that.
Yeah.
That's why it's come to the pinnacle. We needed to change, we're changing, now we're looking at all of these options.
Yeah, cause we're kinda moving up another step, because I think there's gonna be other parks coming down the road.
Sure.
And to bring up LKQ or whatever, they were talking about the backside of that being a park. You know, and whether that goes in, whether it doesn't go in, but there's future parks, and we're gonna be back to the same thing, where we get the money. So,
And I think I think once that park was built, they were planning on having a lot of tournaments. That has not happened.
Yeah.
To help maintain and improve that park.
yeah,
And there's only, to my knowledge, one tournament a year happening.
So
We're
when we
looking into
originally
that too.
talked about
We're
this.
looking into that too.
Yeah, and I think Gary and Lindsay might have been on this, but when we first talked about this, they even talked about shutting the other ball diamonds down and moving everything out there. And taking that ground, because that's the town's ground, selling that, taking that money to help finish the park.
Yes.
It does sound familiar.
Sounds familiar.
I mean, just think, you know, people's talked about they need assisted living, they'd love to have condos around here. We got ball diamonds out there that aren't even being used, because the idea was, so when we started this whole thing, the fire department took one of the girls' ball diamonds. Hey, perfectly fine. So, but my daughter, you know, and family members came out there, and it's like, hey, you know, we need another ball diamond. So then it was like, well, I was going from one ball diamond to the other. I had twins, had a boy playing out here, had a girl playing out here, and it's like, it'd be nice if we could just have them all one place, one concession stand. You know, we don't have to have, they can't hardly find anybody to run them anyway. So if we had all this out at one place, it'd be really nice. That was the original where all this came from. And, you know, I don't know if we've lost sight of it, I don't know why that other one never kind of went towards that direction. But there can be money raised by shutting that down and selling that. You don't need that big of a park out there. Not that you don't need a park there, because that park's used there by the Lions Club for the kids and stuff. But I don't know that we need two separate ball facilities in this town. So it took a while to even get both or all the diamonds going. I think they finally got two going. But, you know, there's 4 diamonds out there and they don't use 2 of them.
Yeah. That's 2 concession stands you have to keep running when we were talking about that.
Well, I believe the boys diamond, I believe they take care of everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
They don't ask for money from the town, they maintain it, take care of it, mow it, all that. The Boghorn Park diamonds, the town maintains.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of reason why you're seeing maybe some difference. The town doesn't have the money to put into it right now. Obviously, looking at our budget, it's pretty tight.
Yeah.
I would be happy with that and sell that ground. The next problem is our sewer system can't handle any more houses than what's already been developed.
Yeah.
That's
the next project.
That's the next project we're facing is we cannot expand. There was another project that they were looking at doing, and the sewer department can't handle it. We are just about at our max safe operating condition.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but anyway, that's kind of the history. I know some of you were on the board, like I said.
Thank you for the history.
Some of you
because
weren't.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see the direction, maybe look at that again.
I've said that many times that those fields are in bad shape.
Yeah, they just need to combine it and take good care of one good facility.
Yeah.
And that could be something we could talk to the boys league about.
Yeah.
Is doing that.
Yeah. All right, appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
May I have the floor, Mr. President?
Go right ahead.
I understand that we're talking about this ordinance, but maybe part of what he's just said can bridge the communication from the council and park board, actually form a unified effort. I hate to go against protocol here and ask into the crowd, but does the master plan that was just approved include either removing one park and enhancing another, or enhancing both parks? What is it? Does that master plan have in there, we're going to enhance both parks and this is what we're going to do to them?
Was to get rid of those 2 that we have and get this new ball diamond. That was the
The
plan.
master plan had one for everything.
I think your master plan,
The one that we came to and did, it had
They
all the
had
parks.
some, stuff to update
Out
at
there.
Woodward with, I think.
The
with-
parking lot was Woodward.
Yeah.
they
and I
literally
think
have
it-
some for everything.
I think it
It was
included.
for all the parks.
So that master plan keeps
Yes.
all parks and enhances them,
Yes.
which is what what a good master plan should do.
And I
So
think
maybe,
that was drained.
maybe this is one of those initial unified efforts to, it's very difficult in the municipal world in Indiana to raise any money through taxes. Taxes are capped, levies are controlled. If you create a park levy, it takes away from the general fund levy, which means money that was paid for other services is gonna go to the parks. You don't get new money. I'm looking right now and I don't see anywhere where Fall Creek or Pendleton have a combined effort to fund their parks. Pendleton has 2 park bonds. Lapel can't really do a park bond because Lapel doesn't have enough constitutional debt limit to do so. So, and that's a growth issue. You could do a park, you could do a geo bond. I think we had discussed that one time. If you did a geo bond just for the parks, I think your constitutional debt limit's right around $590 right now, $590,000. That's it. Once you take that debt out, unless you do a lease rental bond through the redevelopment commission, I know I'm going way over heads here. It's very difficult to raise funds, but if your master plan shows the continuous development of both parks, then what should probably happen is turn that master plan into a capital improvement plan as well. Capital improvement plan is taken by the financial advisors and tells the council that every single year you have to do this kind of thing until you get to a point where your debt issuance gets high enough that you can actually have an impact and do a major improvement to both parks. So that's confusing, but reality. But maybe that's a good unifying effort that bridges some communication issues with, and I'm new, I'm just new, talking head, between the Parks Board and the council.
It might be a little late on the state's side of things, but is there any emergency relief, like COVID era funding that would take care of the parks?
No, sir.
It's already been allocated.
State of Indiana does a very bad job of granting money for these kind of amenities. Now, Next Level Trails is funded pretty well for the next round, but that's just trails, not parks. the DNR, you got an LWCF grant. The good thing is LWCF went from 500,000 to 700,000, so I don't want the council to be put in a corner here, but I have advised other clients to take a GO bond out for your full constitutional debt limit and have that be your match for your LWCF fund, and you've got, 500,000, and LWCF gives you 500,000, you have $1 million. $1 million is a lot more than 200,000 to develop a modern day 2025 style park. But these are some of the strategies I think that bring people together, that bring committees together, that it's a unifying effort, it's not contentious, that we can talk about over the course of time for capital improvement. I'm done, sir.
Well, and within the
Okay, I know that the budget and not having anything is also being talked about, but also maintaining and improving our parks. I think that something needs to be thought about is somebody to take care of those parks and having a park employee to maintain the improved parks that we do have. So that could be something that we can do grant-wise or making sure that we have extra budget for that. I think that would be something that would help.
Absolutely. The more people we have, the better. I mean, it's just, we've got to get the money for that. And actually within the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've consulted with a GO bond attorney that can help guide us in the right direction as far as looking into a bond, like Dax was just talking about, to help with things like that. And so we're diligently working through and looking at what are the different options we can have, not just for the parks, but for the town as a whole, just to bring more revenue in, because our tax levy's capped, and we're at the point where we're even looking at rates, we're looking at utility rates, we're looking at bonds, we're looking at everything we can to be able to get a park employee, to get help with our police department and more staff for the police department as our, population's growing, and just, there's so many things that we need. We've just gotta have the finances for it. And so we are diligently working as a board to find that and get to that point where we can have that revenue. So, any other comments? Comments from the public?
David Phelps, I live in Brookside. I have a guy that I work with in Fishers. His son's building a house in Tuscany about 3 months ago. First thing he asked, parks, where are they at? The park board, I don't know anything about, but my daughter, she says, you need to get on the park board, they can't get anybody. Do they get paid for what they do? Does anybody know?
The park board.
No, they don't get paid. Some of the others don't either. You guys make decent money, but Chad said you only make $6 an hour. 2 years ago, he got a raise.
He made 6,000 last year.
Yeah, huh?
He made 6,000 last year.
Well, 7, I think, but anyway, instead of changing where it's at and maybe have them change it back, what if you would appoint somebody on the park board to come to you, and they would have to, answer to you about what they're gonna do? Just one person.
That's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, did you hear,
Sorry.
Mr. McMullen, we have a park update every month, that usually the president, or if the president
But
can't
you're gonna take care of the
attend,
finances, right?
that would be the goal of this ordinance, yes. For us to be able to execute contracts, finances, things like that.
Good luck.
Any comments? Sure, just state your name and address.
Stephen Berry, 602 Woodward Street. So the issue is right up about we cannot grow with the existing septic that we have.
Sanitary sewer system.
Can I add more houses?
Yes, sir.
So should there be some sort of hyper focus on that with tax revenue and stuff like that?
So, Mr. President, may I answer him? So, your sanitary sewer is paid for by your property taxes. It's not a tax issue, it is a rate issue. So,
Well, I mean, I guess my point was forward thinking, adding more housing down the road after we remedy the septic, or add to the septic. That would allow for tax revenue growth.
yes. Minimal, because housing is the 1%. You really want the 2 and 3%ers to come in if you want any kind of impact on having revenue increase from a levy perspective, because the state controls it so much. It's hard to grow your levy unless you have 100, 200,000 square foot buildings being built. Not saying that's the right thing to do, but that's what, when tax caps came into play in 2010, it's really where the direction of municipal finance went from a governmental services perspective.
Are there any alternate 2 and 3%ers looking in this area?
Sorry, Carol.
Would you ask?
You can answer that now.
If there's alternate 2 and 3%ers that are looking to establish roots in this area aside from
Yes.
the glaring one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, that's it. I was just curious because if we're having that big of an issue with the septic, if we're kind of at a max safety wise, then.
Your engineering firm looked into this. Would I be mistaken if I said that we have the capacity?
Barely.
Okay. To build 100 homes?
Barely.
Okay.
Barely.
I was just asking.
Does Tuscany feed into the current system?
Yes.
Okay, that's it.
But
I got a lot more
they've
questions,
already,
but I wanna
they
get-
already have their capacity allocated.
Right.
For all of the homes, not just the ones that are currently.
Right, I figured, yeah.
And that covers the new ones out in, okay. It's
Yeah, everything is
added
going-
new.
Everything is developed.
Correct. All right, so in regards to the ordinance, comments from the council, do I have a motion to approve of the ordinance or have the first reading of the ordinance? Do I have a motion to deny?
No, you gotta approve.
Oh, yeah, Chad's gone.
No, they can't but they can't revote. Yeah, they can do a first reading.
I apologize with Councilmember Blake leaving, we can't, deny tonight or suspend the ordinance, but any comments before we
I don't
move
think
forward
we
with
should
the first read?
I'd say we just let it, the timeline play out, but my thoughts are to go
We
ahead
could do more
read it
detail.
tonight, but.
We could do more detail. In 30 days.
I agree.
So was that a motion to read or was that a motion to table?
I'll make a motion to read the first, have the first reading of ordinance 8-2023.
I'll second. So this is not, this just moves it on to the next.
Yes,
Right.
and minimum in Indiana is 2 per reading, Lapel has a special rule of 3 readings, unless it's suspended, and you're not moving to suspend.
Noah,
Yes.
Lindsay.
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Gary.
Okay,
Okay. On to our fourth item for the evening. All right, under new business, actually, I apologize, I have an unfinished business. That we added to the agenda, which is payout number 15 for Thieneman Construction. And, this is, in the amount of $5,000. We don't have Commonwealth engineers to update us on the water project, but I know, I've seen around town, them still locating mains, messing up our roads. Which they have assured me that after the mains are located, they will be going back and filling in, the holes they have dug. And so this is just, an additional payment to them for the continuance of their services. I don't know. Yeah,
I think it's on the referendum money though.
well, this was added, so it's not
Oh,
online.
Okay.
yeah, that's, they're done. Tenement's done, that was out there. So, and it's just releasing the retainage.
Oh, okay.
Any questions on that payout this evening from the council?
I'll make a motion to approve payout number 15 for Thieneman for $5,000.
I'll second.
Noah,
Yes.
Lindsay.
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Gary.
Yes,
Alrighty. Next on the agenda is an invoice, for Public Works exceeding $5,000 for Midwest paving. In the amount of. Sorry, my computer will load here.
55, 721, 61.
Thank you. $55,721.61.
that was the change.
Any questions on this?
This finishes out the project.
Yes. Correct.
Yep.
Okay. Do you have anything to add?
Nope, it's just the last payment, project complete, so again, this was the work for 10th, 4th, and 500, so.
So this time I'd like to entertain a motion, to, approve Midwest Paving's, invoice in the amount of $55,721.61.
So moved.
Second.
Noah,
Yes.
Lindsay,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Right. Up next on the agenda is an invoice for Mr. Kleinpeter. It says on here that the grant administration, I'm gonna have Ms. Paula Lee talk about this, if that's okay, not to put you on the spot, but.
no, Mike Kleinpeter is our grant administrator for the Okra project, for the water project. This is basically just an invoice for the work that he has done through SRF, through Okra, and on behalf of Commonwealth and the water project.
Any questions? This time I'd entertain a motion to accept Mr. Kleinpeter's invoice in the amount of $12,400.
So moved.
Second.
Noah,
Yes.
Lindsay,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Not knowing where it comes from.
Okay.
He does that like study group.
Up next on the agenda, we have engineering services for the water project. And this is in the amount of $118,500. Did everyone have a chance to look through this amendment to the engineering agreement? You're fine.
This had to be amended, right, because of the additional work on 13, along 13 had to
Correct.
do the line.
Correct. All right, this time I'd like to entertain a motion to amend the contractor's agreement in the amount of $118,500.
So moved.
Second.
Noah,
Yes.
Lindsay,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Gary.
Yes.
Up next on the agenda is a quote from Grip Incorporated. They come out annually and do testings on our analyzers at the wastewater plant. This year, 2 days before they came out, the analyzer went bad. Shocker how that works. So this is for a new analyzer that Mr. Clausen was brought to our attention, in the amount of $4,143. So this time I'd like to entertain a motion to accept this
This comes out of
invoice
the-
from Grip Incorporated.
This comes out of wastewater, doesn't it?
Yep. Yep.
Not out of the general line.
Right.
I make that motion.
I'll second. Faster.
I'm slow, I'm old.
Noah,
Yes.
Lindsay,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Gary.
Yes.
Alright. Once again, we have the, quote for more water meters on the agenda.
How many water meters do we have right now?
Trying to remember what John told me this week. We have enough for Tuscany.
Okay, why do we need 52 more?
We don't. We don't.
That's what I
He
thought.
said he likes to keep so many, just, they are going around town replacing water meters. I can't say weekly, but probably monthly, during their downtime, because there are some that are old and not working correctly. So I know he likes to keep a certain amount on hand. With him being on vacation, maybe we table this till he's at our next council meeting and we really get exactly what he needs.
Yeah.
Cause this is, 20 grand from the water fund.
Seems like we bought a lot of water meters
Yeah.
this year.
So we've got, I think, one of the meetings earlier on, you've got what, 12 ordered each month for the rest of the year. And that covers what we're putting in down at Dustin and some extra. 12 a month is fine. We don't need it, but we're good through the rest of the year. I don't know why we need a whole bunch more right now.
So would you table this, or is that a motion to?
Yes, I would table this until first of the year. Or at least till December. So we can look at what we've got on hand.
Okay. Is that,
Go from there.
okay. So Gary, is that a motion to table till December?
Yes.
Second.
Noah,
Yes.
Lindsay. Yes. Brian,
Yes.
Gary.
Yes.
So we now have an engagement letter before us from Reedy Financial. And this is for the bond analysis. Is this the geo bond we were talking about earlier that I was speaking with Ms. Wood about, that we're looking for other ways to increase our revenue, and if that's includes getting a bond. So this doesn't need a vote this evening, just for us to look over and consider this. We can vote on it, actually. Have
I mean, they
you
won't-
seen this, Evan? Or is this, you need time to review?
No, it's fine.
It's the engagement letter.
Yeah. It's engagement letter. You're fine. It's on the agenda.
And this is just, basically us giving them permission to, conduct the study at the hourly wage of $50 to $285 an hour.
How big is it?
It's like, did everything with the paralegals and or what level do you
Questions or concerns from the council?
Basically, we can't get this process started without this, correct?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, yes. You really don't know, what this does is, depending on the amount you would like to bond, that bond comes with its own tax rate. And has to produce enough revenue to pay the debt service, so that's the financial advisor side, that's what this is.
So this financial piece isn't included in our yearly contract with you.
No, this is an FA.
Okay.
This is straight up, financial advisor must do this. It's their job.
Have you worked with Reedy on this before?
I worked with pretty much every FA in the state, and this is what. I think they had done work with you in the past. I think that's where I think that's why they reached out, so.
Okay. So this time I entertain a motion to accept this engagement letter from Reedy Financial.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Noah,
Yes.
Lindsay?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Okay. Up next is a general service agreement between Town of Lapel and Regal Computer Services. They provide all of our domains, web hostings, any IT support. Did the council have a chance to review that this evening?
Chad, I know he's not here, but didn't he say something before about he was looking into some of the state run?
Yeah, and I think Dax has had phone
Emails
calls
or-
with them, with, IM.gov.
We did, you know, for these IT services, it's really best, in my opinion, if you don't wanna stay with your current provider, that you would do an SOQ of sorts, because they all say they're the best, and they all say they're gonna give you the best product. It's not until you do a statement of qualifications process where you would interview them and really get down to the nitty gritty of what they do that you can compare any kind of apples to any kind of oranges. You know, your current contractor's been with you for a while, and only fair that you provide them an opportunity to stay. I think that's what this is about. There are alternatives, and maybe that alternative comes through planning throughout the year 2024. And maybe you do an SOQ going into the next year, but, you know, to keep the service for this year is probably in your best interest.
See, it's $100 more over what it was this year, and you got 5 different domains, so it's only like $20 a domain.
If you guys look at the last sheet, it looks like from 2023 to 2025, his rate will stay the same at $950. And then 2027 to 2033, it goes up roughly $30 each year. After that,
Does this lock us in 2020 through 2026?
No, there's termination.
10 days notice for termination.
Okay.
So yeah, we could keep it for a couple of years and then see where things go. As far as being live streaming and all that we got to start doing.
Yeah.
I'd entertain a motion to accept the general services agreement from Regal Computer Services.
I make that motion.
I'll second. Go fast.
Noah?
Yes.
Lindsay?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Up next on the agenda is in a task order for on-call utility planning assistance through Commonwealth Engineers.
This is for Rob or any of the guys down there at Commonwealth. When we start talking about doing some of the researching on wastewater treatment plant or water plant or wells, looking for new sources of water, any of those kinds of things, it's for that versus a specific project as they're doing the water and the mains that they're doing now. So it's so that if we ask them to look into something down the road, as in whatever, there's a rate for that, a service agreement.
So this is not a task order. We haven't requested them to do anything right now. This
No.
is just like their fees for if we request something in the future.
As in, we wanna look into the wastewater treatment plant.
or we wanna look into where we need wells. This would be so that they could do that work.
Sure.
Whether it be Rob or one of the other folks down there at Commonwealth.
Yeah. And I know last month we approved MS's on-call.
Right.
So it's good to have multiple engineers, get difference of opinions.
So when something comes up, an emergency comes up, or anything comes up, we've got this agreement in place already.
Yeah, Indianapolis has like 20 on-calls.
Right.
20 different
Right.
engineering firms, so it's always a good thing to have.
It doesn't cost us anything unless we use it.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Good practice.
At this time, I'd entertain a motion to accept this on-call engineering services proposal by Commonwealth Engineers.
I will, move to accept the task order agreement from Commonwealth Engineering for on-call service.
Second. Noah?
Yes.
Lindsay?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Next on the agenda, we've had a lot of public records requests lately, and I don't think our public records request form has been updated in quite a while.
It's the firm's recommendation that you update this.
Yes, so our legal staff has provided a new records request form, so that's before the council tonight to approve. Any questions?
No, legal counsel is good with it. It's got everything on there we need.
This time I'd entertain a motion to accept this public records request, new public records request form.
I will make the motion.
Second. Noah?
Yes.
Lindsay? Yes. Brian?
Yes.
Gary?
Yep, yes.
All right. And lastly, under new business is, actually, I have two things under new business left. One, we have a rental agreement from Sunbelt Rentals. This was an added, item to the agenda this evening, and this is for a leaf vac, for leaf vacuum trailer for our fall months. I believe it was last year when our leaf vac broke. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And so we ended up renting it. It's $385 a day, or $1,430 a week, or $3,800 for 4 weeks. And so
I believe we did 4 weeks last year and it pretty well covered everything.
yes, I believe you're right. So
the Sunbelt or?
it's their Sunbelt.
It's Runyon bought out Sunbelt.
Okay. Or Sunbelt bought out Runyon.
Yeah,
Okay.
however you say it.
Okay.
When I called her, she said, now your email will come.
Okay.
Email will come from Sunbelt.
I'm good.
Alright.
You're good with it, I'm good.
This time, I'd like to entertain a motion to accept this Sunbelt agreement for their leaf vac for 4 weeks in the amount of $3,800.
So moved.
Second,
Noah?
Yes.
Lindsay?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Gary?
yes.
Okay. And lastly, under new business would be for us to consider the establishment of an impact fee advisory committee. Dax, you
So,
wanna speak on that?
although we don't believe glaring in state statute, but recommended that if you are looking at implementing impact fees such as road, park, etc., that you form a citizens advisory committee, essentially, to discuss the implementation and establishment of those fees. So, it's ad hoc, probably should be done by resolution, but we wanted you to understand that tonight introduce the idea so that you can begin the process to approve that resolution and establish this ad hoc committee as you go through the process of developing, especially park and road impact.
Once the resolution is voted on, is included in that resolution, is the committee have to be formed at that time too?
Yeah, the resolution will detail who would be appointed, how many members are on it, stuff of that nature, yes.
It's once again not a state statute, it's not a committee that is formed by statute. It's kind of a, I use the word home rule, it's up to you all as to how you would like to form that ad hoc. But there is a lawsuit now, with a community who had developed an impact fee, but did not develop a committee to discuss it prior. And that's why legal across the state is now recommending the establishment of this committee. Just wanted to bring it to your attention.
How would legal staff feel about or what would you suggest the structure be for appointing members, similar to maybe like the planning commission or like the park board? I mean, I know at the planning commission we have, member of or staff of town, so many Republicans, so many Democrats, and just so.
Well, Parks Board, that's required by statute. This is, you get to make your own rules. I would recommend having someone from the council on it, having, yeah, real
builder.
Individuals that would, be affected by this.
Okay.
It's the Builders Association that gets a bit concerned about impact fees because those are attached to the housing permits.
Right.
And they can get fairly expensive, but they are necessary. There are some that are $2,000-3,000.
Yeah, don't have like the lowest around. I think that's what, we have like the lowest impact fees around, or.
Water sewer, yes, your water sewer.
No, that's what I've heard from Davis.
Are very low.
Yeah, I think that's something that we'd be interested in exploring, and maybe I can get with you and.
I'll prepare a resolution and you guys can review and pass it next time if you so choose.
I think that would be good. All right. Up next on the agenda is department reports. Chief, you have anything?
I've got the numbers in front of you for last month. Sorry, my laptop battery died on me. 388 calls from basically in a 30-day period. You can see the number of arrests that we made. Obviously, the biggest one was possession of methamphetamine, so, which we know in the police department that's nothing new, but as we're reporting this to you, that's something new to you. Only thing on the agenda, don't need to vote, bring it up to your attention. Was contacted by a non-for-profit that likes to get out information about fentanyl, opioids, and drug abuse. They're a non-profit, they don't want anything. All they want to know is if we would be willing to allow a link on our webpage so parents or other children can click on it and download the information. If you guys will think about that, I'll get with you outside of the meeting. We don't have to do anything about that tonight.
Chief, who is that?
I'll have to get you all that information. So,
Did you get a hold of the
I
committee
have not.
that's in charge of
Not yet.
Fest?
Nope.
Okay.
So, we'll get a hold of them.
Thank you.
If there's no question about the numbers, I have nothing else tonight.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Robertson, planning, any update?
We had nothing on the agenda, just took public comments last
Okay.
week.
Very good. Utilities, Gary, do we have anything? Utilities?
Well, we addressed most of those in our quotes and things that they asked for. Other than that, things have been running along fairly decent.
Okay. Parks, we addressed that this evening. Redevelopment Commission, Chad's not here. Paula, do you have anything to add on that?
We paid a bill to Reedy Financial, we work with, for TIF presentation, and preparation for Gateway.
Oh. Olivia, do you have a Parks update?
Well, we did get the spraying done, just a little.
The what? I'm
the
sorry.
Spraying for the rest,
Oh.
for that, don't think we're wanting a bulldozer, just wanted to let that, cause we don't wanna move that dirt until everything's dead.
It's dead.
But that's something maybe we talk about later.
Okay.
But
Is it not dead?
no,
He said it's all dead and ready to be moved.
Mike did, okay, cause from what we've
Yesterday.
gotten, from the, like who Katie was working with on the chemicals and the solution, we're told to just leave it, cause we're going to be doing, I think, another spray in the spring, or in late October. So we don't wanna move that, because if we do, it's just gonna replant.
Okay.
Let's get together after the meeting if you're not planning on leaving just yet.
Nope.
Okay.
I don't know if Katie's brought it up, but I have offered free charge to grade all that dirt out.
All right, Teresa, Paula, any update from the office? Good, okay. All right, approval of claims. Everyone should have received the docket. Any questions about the docket?
I don't.
I don't think you were on there.
I don't think I was either, but I wanted to make sure. I was it.
Yep, IMI and EMD were, but I didn't get it billed yet for the hauling.
I would entertain a motion to approve the claims as presented.
I'll move to accept the claims as presented for September.
Second.
Noah,
Yes.
Lindsay,
Yes.
Brian,
He's still looking.
You're not on there.
I'm double checking for myself. Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
You made the motion.
Oh, you made the motion?
Lindsay seconded.
Well, I'll make that motion to adjourn.
all in favor?
Aye.
No. Now.
Did you get it? Thank you, guys.
I almost started.
You know what? I saw that in the office. Paula had it sitting